There are some lies in our science books. Taught it for 15 years. Even though I'm not teaching it anymore, I still like to study. There's so many neat things to learn. We're going to cover some of that tonight.
Perception is being managed. We are being steered and guided by a hidden hand.
The whole world has been duped by the media that is not real.
Smart thinking, possible time traveler, smart thinking.
That night, boom, contact memory.
And then just, Alex, if you don't agree, you'll be sent to a re-education camp.
Just because I'm old doesn't mean I've lost my touch with the ladies.
A lot of people here tonight felt like they lost. You know why?
Now, experts are suggesting that we're in a golden age of shape-shifting reptilian sightings. Now, why is that?
I was, and still am, a huge conspiracy guy. I literally ran out of new tin hat topics to research.
It was most definitely not capable of melting steel.
Then I would be a crackpot if I thought that was the case.
Thought that was the case.
Welcome to the Hypothetical Institute, a podcast about conspiracies.
My name is Luke.
I am Cam. No Salty again this week.
He's got a case of the COVID.
He has.
You need to guess what number it is.
Oh,
19.
19, I was going to say 18.
No, 19 is the big one.
He's done well to get to 2023 without getting it.
You haven't had it, though?
No, I've done much better. But I'm not going to rub it in if he's listening to this on his sick bed.
No, I don't think he listens. He doesn't like, oh, what are my pals up to when I'm not around? Oh, Salty.
This week we're talking about the Titan submarine, which imploded.
It did implode. Quite
dramatically.
Dramatically, but not dramatic. Like dramatically in the sense of everyone was watching what it was going to do, but not dramatically as it had already happened.
Yeah,
and no one saw it do what it did.
So I've got a little theory about this.
Yeah, I guess. Are we going to cover the background of this? Because I think everyone knows the story, right?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get too into the weeds about the what's it called? The
Oceangate.
We don't have to get too into the weeds about the history of Oceangate.
Yeah.
I have a little theory about the way that the media covered this submersible. Which is that, so I'm not an idiot, right? Okay, let me rephrase. I'm not a complete idiot. I know that the media saw this thing happening and they gave it the coverage that they did because on a certain level, it didn't matter what the outcome was as far as the quality of the story. Like, if they get rescued, that's amazing.
Yeah, if they get rescued, that's huge for media.
If they die, it's move on to the next thing. But so on a certain level, I think that when the media said, let's go balls to the wall on submarine coverage, they were like, well, we know that. But I do think that on another level, the media and also a lot of people in the old discourse were massively spoiled by them little boys in the cave.
Yeah, okay.
I think that that cave story got huge coverage because obviously that's a big story. You've got these kids, they're in the cave.
Yep.
It's like 1,000,000 to 1. It's a race against time. This is like the Titan submarine. The cave was a race against time because it was only a matter of time until it started raining and those kids were DED dead. So when they started covering the cave disaster the way they did, that was another situation where they were like, well, if they're rescued, amazing. We'll get a Disney Plus doco out of it. We'll get a Netflix doco out of it. We might even get a proper movie. But if they all die, that's sad. We'll get to film some crying parents and then we'll move on to the next thing.
Yep.
But those kids were not supposed to live. Someone threw an extra...
Wait, are you saying this is a Final Destination situation?
No, I mean, everything, like that. The thing where they were like, oh, what are we going to do? Well, let's just give them all ketamine and we'll send some divers in and pull their ketamine. We'll get them into a K-hole. That's the most important thing. They're like, do we need to get them into a K-hole? It has to be ketamine. They got them into a K-hole and then they're like, let's just pull their lifeless corpses through this thing and they'll all be fine. That was never supposed to happen. They were all supposed to die in Elon Musk's submarine. Or there were so many things that should have gone wrong in that situation. It was just so incredibly lucky, and like all of the fact that all of this talent were able to get into that situation. And you also had a situation there where, you know, there were all these people saying, don't listen to these guys who want to put them into a ketamine trance. These fucking rave casualty divers. We can't listen to them. And for some reason, they were listened to. They got the kids out. Everyone was fine. I think that spoiled the media.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. So they were wanting to eat again.
Yeah.
They wanted to dip their little media piggy snouts into the trough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. We had the mini version of that. I guess you did. I'm no longer there, but in Australia, when Koshi jumped into the ambulance with the guys stuck in the mine, and like Dave Grohl visited them or something. Remember that one?
Yeah, in Tasmania.
Yeah, and then there was the one Peru, South America somewhere.
I reckon we've had a bit, because I guess the thing is you don't really remember the ones where they take the cameras away.
Yeah.
But I think the media was spoiled, and the audience was spoiled as well. And so when this submarine goes missing, I think there was also an assumption that, well, there's a billionaire on board, so they'll just throw everything at rescuing these guys.
Yeah,
and it's like, of course they'll, there's like so much money involved. Of course they'll rescue them. So I do think that they did think that they were going to be rescued, and people thought they were going to be rescued. Like all of the people making gallows humor commentary, they were all like, imagine what it's going to be like when they come up and they see how much we were dunking on them.
Yeah, so that was the other angle of like Twitter went pretty ham on fuck them billionaires. They bought it on themselves. Probably, look, for me, a little bit too much. But also, ultimately, I guess from my perspective, I figured I don't need to. Like, it's one of those things I looked at when I don't need to engage in any of this. I don't need to have a side on, whether the people dunking on them are right or not. Just let everyone have their fun and whatever. But yeah,
I think in terms of that discourse, it was a little bit too much for me.
Yeah,
but as more and more emerged about this submersible, I will say the main guy became a significantly less sympathetic figure.
Yeah. So I guess the top level, and people probably know this already, there was a really good, was it New York Magazine article about kind of all the safety warnings, and this guy had years of safety warnings, and he basically said, no, I'm just going to do it differently. You guys are all wrong.
I'm going to move fast and break things.
One of the quotes was like, people need to stop telling me I'm going to die, because we've heard the baseless cries of you're going to kill someone way too often, and I take this as a personal insult. And like he said hundreds of things like that.
Yeah.
That wasn't like the most famous one. It's just a whole bunch of stuff that he said.
Yeah.
So yeah, once you learn more about him and how unsafe it all was, it's hard to be that sympathetic.
I think also when there was that question mark over it, which was probably not necessary, but when there was the question mark over are these people still alive, there was this idea that, like, I don't know, they're at the bottom of the ocean waiting it out and in the dark, and it's like maybe making tough decisions, like if we want to
eat.
Not necessarily who we're going to eat, but if you've got limited oxygen, there's a pretty simple solution to extending the oxygen supply.
Yes.
Which is to reduce the number of people that require it.
Yes.
So it's like, are they down there in the dark making some tough calls? And so it was easy. I found that quite empathetic. And then, but as it emerges that actually these people died in so quickly that they had no idea, it must be the best sort of death anyone could ever hope for.
Yeah. You've got the anticipation of seeing the Titanic through a screen, going all that way to look at it through a screen, and then done.
Yeah, before you realise anything's wrong, you've been snapped out of existence.
Yeah.
So you don't even have Marvel movie, I'm fading away.
Yeah,
You're just gone. A proper snap.
All of the advice that he was given is this is what is going to happen when you try and do that.
Yeah.
And it did. So, yeah.
And it's like, the thing with that advice is it's not like because I saw a lot of people going on about like the video game controller. They're like, which I think is fairly standard.
It is standard, but he was doing it in a non-standard way. So drone pilots or drones are set up with video game controllers. I think some nuclear submarines have them because it's a reliable part that someone else has already built.
Mm.
And it plugs into USB, so let's just use that.
Yeah.
The issue with his one, though, he was using it over Bluetooth.
Yeah. I think people are also like using, their PS5 controllers, your Xbox One controllers, and he was clearly using just pause. Last episode we spoke about like the ads we got on Twitter.
Yeah.
And for some reason I was in like a moment of having normal ads.
Yeah.
The moment I put that episode out, they went back to being fucked.
Right.
Unpause. The controller they were using looked like something that would be advertised on Twitter.
It's you've gone around to your friend's house. You're going to all play a 4-player wrestling game. It's $19.99. It's a WCW game. You're on the Nintendo GameCube, and they've only got 3 good controllers, and you get given the sticky, wobbly little joystick. Doesn't quite work. You might get a plastic splinter from it controller.
Mm.
Never happened to me, but it could have happened to someone else.
So, yeah, the thing was, it's like, at first it seemed like that was the sort of things where he was like doing it his own way, but then it turned out that there's like some sort of standard things that are done with these submersibles. Like they're like, let's make it out of titanium. Which should have been a clue for the Titan going down to visit the Titanic. Just make it out of titanium. But he's like, no, I'll make it out of plastic.
Yeah, a mixture of carbon fiber and titanium. Early ones were like pretty much just leaking straight away. And all titanium, the reason why that's so good is as it gets put under pressure, it actually gets stronger. The more pressure it gets put under. Carbon fiber doesn't do that.
No. They also had a window that was, I think, good to go down to like 1,000 meters or something, which is not as deep as they were going. And it's not entirely clear if that was part of the problem because there was like legal documents from a few years ago where someone said, look, you can't have this window. And there was some suggestion that maybe they changed it. But then I did see today they pulled the sub out of the water and that window was gone.
Yeah, right. One of the funny things that this guy said, which kind of makes it relevant to modern day, is when everyone is telling him that he can't do what he's doing and it's impossible, he said, one of the quotes is that he said he's done this with logic.
Yeah.
Which is the classic modern dumb guy, debate me with your facts and logic. You can't win because I've got logic on my side. Tactic right now. Like he's the literal version of that. Oh, I guess the most extreme version of that is building a submarine with logic.
Yeah. There's so much. There was the bolts that they just didn't do the top one because it was too high up.
Yep.
It's like, put it in the water. Just give it one last twist before you put it under. There was one other quote that sort of led into a bit of culture war gear for this, which was he'd said something along the lines of, I don't need old white men on my team.
Yeah.
Because I think he'd burnt through all of the old white men 50-year-old white men was his exact thing.
Yeah.
I think there is a cohort of 50-year-old white men in the old submersible business who I think he'd basically burnt through, right?
Yeah. He had hired many old white dudes in the lead up to this. And all of them said, please don't do this anymore. You're going to kill people. So he went, oh, okay, I need some young idiots then that don't know what the hell they're doing. Because, it's a reflection of modern times. The youth just need to do anything for money, really.
Yeah.
It's if anything, it says a lot more about capitalism than it does about wokeness, Cam.
So this did become, I think this is where the Conservatives sort of landed, because they're like, we're losing the old culture war on this one, because that doesn't look good that this billionaire was like, regulations, who needs them? Like, that's not a win for our side. But if you can say, oh, it was because he was so woke that he wouldn't employ white men, then you can make a point.
It's interesting. I watched a few kind of right-wing commentators on this, and the right-wing media sphere is quite confusing now. You're just not going to your standard Fox News or podcasters. There's all these kind of murky channels that look really professional. I don't know who this lady is, Lisa Haven, but it was pretty reflective of other things that people were talking about, where they would mention that woke thing and sort of saying, oh, look, this is what happened when you go woke and you don't want to hire white 50-year-olds. You don't abide by meritocracy. You hire by diversity and all that bullshit. And there's this like real absolute gleefulness about it. Like they're real happy that it proved that not hiring old white dudes would kill you in the submarine. But then they also want to say how what we're talking about on Twitter about how the left was like loving it and hoping that'll die. So it's this kind of, we are happy that this happened, but also the left is happy too, and they're worse than us.
Mm.
Which I think is kind of an interesting one. Like these days, everyone's just trying to look to see if their side is right, and in this kind of Donald Trump versus everyone else world that we're in. It's just like what and it happens every time there's a mass shooter. Everyone's clamoring to make it out that he was either left or right wing. And like both sides do it. Like as soon as you hear of an active shooter, I'm sure all of us on the left go, it's probably some crazy racist. Whereas on the right, they're already tweeting, finding fake pictures of them being a trans person or whatever. So there's a, and this is I think one of those examples in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just before you cancel yourself, Robbo, I don't think that's quite it's not an equivalence there.
I'm certainly not saying it's equivalent. I'm saying both sides do it quite differently.
Yeah.
I don't think what the chuds on the right are doing is good or equivalent in any stretch.
Yeah. Right.
But both sides absolutely are guilty of doing it, and I think to say that they're not is disingenuous.
All right. Well, thank you for giving me the perfect ammunition to edit around to make you sound like you are saying that. I came across one of these guys, like you're saying, one of these. They just come out of nowhere. It's like some commentator, Joey Maniano, and he had some stupid take. It was just a "go woke, get sunk" sort of take. But I was like, who is this guy? Where's he come from? Because it is just these Twitter accounts. And I looked him up, and there was like a YouTube account for like the singer Joey Maniano. I was like, oh, that's unfortunate for him. And then it was the same guy, and he's got like all of it. It's got him doing all these show tunes like 11 years ago on YouTube, and I just could not be bothered to find like where he'd gone wrong.
Yeah, there's at this point like it's I don't know. It's fun to unpack them, but man, if you try and unpack all of them,
it's too much.
Too many.
All right.
I had a thing saved and I can't find it about Joe Biden saying like a quote, and I've clicked on the link that I saved and that quote isn't there. But apparently he said, we're very sad they're dead, even if that's true.
Oh, they Mandela affected you.
Yeah, and now I'm like, where did I get that quote from? Because I think it was just a classic. I'm Googling it now and I can't find it.
Oh, they fully Mandela'd you, mate.
All right, let's skip that. Skip over this one.
I guess just one final thing about like the media coverage. The thing that makes me think that I might be a little bit right about them wanting another bite of the cave apple is the way that they reacted when it came out that the Navy had sort of known from quite like that someone had known. Oh, that noise we heard was the thing going.
Yeah, I think there's two noises, and they coincided with them losing their comms.
Losing the signal.
And being at a depth where that should happen, where that was probably going to happen.
Yeah, and because the thing that like made people think that there might be some hope is they're like, we've heard banging noises every 30 minutes. That's what was reported. And it's like, well, I think that someone who heard about those banging noises probably could have told you if they're sending some sort of message by banging, they're not going to do it every 30 minutes. It's far more likely that it's just something banging. It's like some debris banging against something. So there was this sort of put outness on the part of the media, though. I saw some comments along the lines of like, who knew what and when?
Yeah.
And why didn't they tell us? Why did they give us hope? It's like, well, you were still going to cover it if there was no hope. They put a timer on for when the oxygen was going to run out. So
yeah, multiple media outlets, and seemingly normal mainstream outlets had a timer going.
Yeah,
that's weird. I think that's getting your media snout too deep into that trough.
Yeah, it was also sort of weird because it's like I was saying, I think that there was a feeling that a billionaire will get rescued. And there were those like rescue submarine guys that came in like, if they'll let us do it, we can rescue them. It's like, no, you can't. But when they put those timers on, like the timer was off anyway. They're like, this is when they're going to run out of air. Well, it's like, it doesn't matter when they run out of air. They're in a submarine. You got to get them up. It's gonna take you like so many hours to get them to a point where you can pop the cap on that thing.
Yes.
So, yeah, all a little macabre.
Do we want to talk about some cook stuff?
Yeah, let's get cooked. Let's get even more cooked than putting a timer for when someone's oxygen runs out.
Which is pretty damn cooked. I watched and listened to this podcast called The Edge of Wonder.
Ooh.
And people seem to have a bit of a universe happening, and I again, 5 years ago, it probably would have been significant to discover something like this. Now it's just like another channel on Rumble and probably on Kick or something. You know, like it's just one of like a whole sphere. They seem to be like reasonably normal, probably guys in their 20s that don't, they're not immediately like the quality is really good. They seem to be pretty coherent when they're talking. But there's a lot of remote viewing going on. Their whole theory was, and I'll get into the remote viewing stuff in a second, but their main theory was that this was a cover up. And it might have happened. Hunter Biden's laptop.
Oh yeah.
Because did he get indicted or charged with something recently?
I think he picked up a couple of charges over something.
Yeah. Just
as an aside with Hunter Biden, did you see the video came out of him smoking crack while he was driving to Vegas?
Yes.
I saw two. Firstly, I was surprised when I clicked on this in Our Conspiracy. Someone had done a montage of him smoking crack in the car, and then there was a story about him driving at 170 kilometers an hour. And then there was some other picture that they'd put in. And the people on Our Conspiracy were like, these photos are not from the same time. He was smoking crack in a car and he was driving ridiculously fast on separate occasions. They're trying to manipulate us. It's like, okay, sure, whatever.
What's the point of manipulating that?
But it's when, Hunter Biden thinks he's above the law when he's just filming himself smoking crack in a car. It's like, no, he just thinks he's high on crack.
Yeah.
He doesn't think he's above the law.
It's just not entering his mind at all.
When did it become I wish Hunter S. Thompson was still alive so he could weigh in on the ethics of doing a bunch of drugs on the way to Vegas.
Well, that's the thing. Every one of these dudes, for some reason, they view the outlaw 70s, 60s and 70s. So people like Hunter S. Thompson, they all really look up to him and think that, he's he would be on their side.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely, they don't see the juxtaposition there of, and it was we talked about last week of Alex Jones talking about his favorite, metal bands or rock bands, And every one of them would be like, if they were modern rock bands, he'd hate them.
Yeah.
And every one of them has a very, very murky past. And as you said, they've probably made a deal with the devil to get to the point that they are. So these guys used to cover up Hunter Biden's laptop, and also the government, the media and the government saw an opportunity to cover up a James O'Keefe video.
Oh.
James, Project Veritas, we've spoken a little bit about this over the years. So he gets low-level people drunk and uses them, gets them drunk and then convinces them to say, just banal things like, I work for CNN and we absolutely manipulate stories.
Yeah.
And then edits them and then releases them as a big gotcha video. So he's released one recently. But apparently he said the big bombshell, according to these guys, that he said that politicians can be bought if you have enough money.
Whoa. We need to bury this at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
If I was the Illuminati and I heard James O'Keefe was coming out with that, I think it's very important that we note, we have talked about this before, but I think we should never mention James O'Keefe without mentioning that he split up with Project Veritas because they said he wanted to spend all of their money on producing musical theatre.
And
specifically about culture wars.
And the music video he did was amazing. I can't remember what it was. What was it? Anyway, look up James O'Keefe music
video. Was it
video.
about oligarchy?
That's right, oligarchy. I'm trying to Google it, but I'm getting all the it's obviously suppressed by the media. As in the algorithms don't want people to see. Google doesn't want to share his content, so it's all sort of reactions to that. But look it up.
I just can't believe that my face is on TV. Oligarchy, am I left or right? M-O-G-O-P. Oligarchy, do I have faith in truth? Does truth have faith in me?
James O'Keefe is suing Twitter for defamation.
They're taken down because they confronted a Facebook executive.
Take a video like that down, it would be due to doxing concern.
Yeah, the interesting thing about these guys. So these guys are one of their whole shticks is remote viewing and psychic stuff. They're talking about Hunter Biden's laptop, talking about James O'Keefe, and it's being covered up and with the media and the government are colluding. But this is a quote from them. It's not the massive conspiracy everyone thinks it is. It's just these things. So in their minds, Hunter Biden's laptop, the media, the government, James O'Keefe, it's not a conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's just kind of happening. And then there's another layer in their minds of these cookers think this is a big conspiracy, not like us normal people. Anyway, let's get to the remote viewing of the submarine where we can psychic our way in. So they did get a couple of guests in from a different part of their media sphere. And they said they've not officially remote viewed it, but they've kind of got a vibe from it.
Okay.
And it's not an official, the quote is, this is not official remote viewing data. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, no, unofficial remote viewing.
Yep. So they felt they were still alive. This is when it was still counting down.
Yeah, based on an unofficial vibe check, yes.
Yep, unofficial vibe check. But there's a lot of talk about how the ocean, whenever they try to remote view into this submarine and anywhere underwater, even remote viewing into a shower, which is a little bit creepy. Don't use your remote viewing powers to be a creep.
No.
Should be written in their rules. The ocean has a karmic sense and a sadness to it. So it's pulling you down and pulling you down into the sadness, and it's really hard to remote view into this. And the water that has this the collective karmic memory. So it was difficult to do. But
that's so weird that the ocean has this deep karmic sadness, but that then extends to all water. Because I can the ocean. I can understand if the ocean's quite big.
Ocean big.
It's quite deep.
Deep.
It's quite dark.
Indeed, dark.
And I could understand if ocean vibes were pretty dense, too dense to cut through. But I sort of don't quite see how that would extend to like not being able to watch Osama bin Laden singing to his rubber ducky in the bathtub.
Is that from Hot Shots? Does that happen on Hot Shots too?
Osama bin Laden specifically?
Oh, no, it's Saddam Hussein. There's a whole slapstick Saddam Hussein plotline in Hot Shots too.
But not involving remote viewing, I hope.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess if I'm thinking of like water vibes, deep dark ocean, like where a submarine might have imploded, yeah, that's the vibes on that are not great.
No.
If I'm thinking positive vibes of a shower, like imagine you've got an outdoor shower, you've just been for a swim in the ocean, you've run back and you're outside, you're just basking in some glorious fresh water to rinse yourself clean. There's no way that if I was remote viewing in that, those vibes are going to be bad.
No.
Actually, no, there's a lot of bad vibes in that. And maybe when they're remote viewing into people's showers, the bad vibes they're getting are just, this is a creepy thing to do.
Yeah. Like, if the vibes are just coming off the water, I don't want to question the science here, because obviously the science is settled on remote viewing.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
I do feel like, let's say that the vibes carry through the water, and water generally carries the ancestral vibes of itself. So whether it's in the ocean or it's in the bathtub or in the shower or in the swimming pool, gee, you couldn't bloody sneak a ticket to the Olympic swimming, could you?
No, you could not. Well, you could. You would have to like be really steeling yourself for some positive, you'd be really having to have that battle. I do wonder, though, the amount of positivity that's present in Olympic Games, because, it's a very exciting time for everyone involved.
True. That might overcome it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just feel if we're saying the vibes are in the water, I think that everything is generally quite moist.
Yes.
Like everything's a little bit damp.
Yes, this is the argument against the movie Signs, right?
Have you seen this fact on Twitter that humans can't feel wet? It's like one of those, that show QI?
Yes.
You know how their Twitter account is always tweeting facts? This is one of the facts. Humans can't feel wetness. They can only feel changes in temperature and texture. And you know what I say to that?
Yeah, that's true.
No, fuck off. I can feel when things are wet. I just touch them and they're all soggy.
No, you're feeling the coldness though.
No, that's what I want. If I can feel wetness.
Cam, get your sous vide out.
Oh God, here we go.
And work out, like, take your temperature, and then get your sous vide out and get it up to that temperature. Because the sous vide's, it holds a stable temperature for ages. Put your finger in and close your eyes, or close your eyes, get someone to like lift it up to your finger and see if you can sense when your finger's in it. That made sense, right?
Yeah, it made sense. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, try that.
I would put my finger in it. I'd be like, that's damp. That's quite damp. That's water.
Only one way to find out, buddy.
Yeah, all right, maybe I will. Anyway, where were we going with this?
Remote viewing. I've got some more remote viewing gear. You ready for this?
Please give me more.
So they were talking about other things they remote viewed with bad vibes. And one of them was the Black Knight satellite.
Oh, yeah.
Which we talked about years ago, which is a bit of space debris that was photographed once. I think it might have been like a live stream of the space station, or there's a photo of some debris in the sky, and people have believed that it's a satellite that is mystical or alien-like and not piloted by humans, and it's just out there, and it's watching us. And every time this lady remote views the Black Knight satellite, giant ants showed up in her house. Giant ants. She wanted to make clear that they showed up astrally.
Oh, okay.
Just to make that clear, which I was a little bit panicky, which that's just The Simpsons, right?
Yes.
The episode of The Simpsons in space. We welcome our ant overlords, or whatever that quote is.
Yeah. She's just bloody remote viewed into frinkiac.com.
Yeah. Anyway, that was I deleted their name. That's from the podcast Edge of Wonder. They may have a few adjacent name podcasts. I'm probably going to dip back into these guys because, yeah, pretty interesting, and just their production values. And as I said, like, did not make them seem crazy cooked on how it was. They could have been just about to start talking about, the new video game.
Yeah.
The new Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then they just started getting into this stuff.
I did see some commentary around the general concept of psychics, which was there was not a lot of psychic content being generated around this submersible.
Right.
And they're like, back in the day when something happened, you'd have like the people coming out of the woodwork.
Mm.
But I think that I saw the content. I saw some tarot content and like the general fortune telling gear on YouTube. Like there's a whole ecosystem out there if you go looking for it. But I think it was one of those things where it's like, if you want to start making predictions about these people, well, you're going to be proven wrong or proven correct in short order. So, like,
Well, I know what you mean. Like, you wouldn't want to touch that kind of thing because it's going to blow up in your face really quickly. There is a literal timer for it.
Yeah.
But when people are saying, "Oh, there's not a lot of psychic gear," just as you were talking, a cursory search on the internet, there is lots of it.
Yeah,
lots of it. I just literally pulled up one that's got thousands of views.
Because there's literally for anything that happens, there is psychic gear for it. It's just, I think that these people were sort of imagining, I don't know, someone goes missing and the psychic shows up on the evening news. They were thinking of a different time. I think actually they were hearkening back to a bygone era when there was way less psychic gear. It might have just been that you were exposed to it.
Yeah. I think, as we talked about now, the media landscape is so vast because everyone's creating high definition YouTube content or Rumble content or Kick content. So there are all these things. So it's just the jagged, the point. It's like standing on a rock on the street. If it's a gravel road, it's not going to hurt so much. But if it's just one rock on a smooth road, you're going to notice it. That's psychic content.
Well. So in terms of other conspiracy gear, I did see some, I don't know, it was less cover-up and more like SEO cover-up.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of like low-effort gear for this. I think because it didn't last too long. It didn't like give you a huge opportunity to like really build lore around it. So,
but isn't everything kind of low effort now?
Yeah.
With the lore building, other than like the QAnon JFK people, everyone's just coasting on the surface of, Biden laptop, Trump saving the world kind of stuff, and that's it.
Yeah. The one that I saw that maybe went like an extra level was, if you recall, we did an episode about the original Titanic some years ago. And one of the theories about that was that there were a bunch of guys on the boat who were opposed to setting up a Federal Reserve in the United States. And so JP Morgan, who I think owned the Titanic.
Yeah, something that'll fund it or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, the JP Morgan, the guy, not just the company. He was like, two birds, one stone. I can take out, because he wanted a Federal Reserve, I'll take out my Federal Reserve enemies, and at the same time, I'm going to make a killing on the insurance payout. And so the theory then goes about the Titan submersible is that now when you Google billionaire's Titanic, you're not going to get all of this information about JP Morgan being behind the sinking of the original Titanic to take out the Federal Reserve enemies. You'll just get this bloody goose.
It's the Disney on Ice thing all over again.
Yeah. And it's like, it just seems like too much effort to go to for SEO manipulation. Like you could start a bunch of little blogs and skew the Google results.
Yeah, and also at this point, no one really It's like
Yeah.
JP Morgan, the company, not the guy, has got enough money for it not to be an issue for them at all, and it isn't because they
Yeah.
continue getting all that money.
Also, it happened 100,000 years ago. What consequence is there?
Yeah.
So on one level, I found that slightly more effort, but on another level, I found it very low effort.
I mean, there were things like the one of the ladies on there, her grandma and granddad were on the Titanic. They were the old couple in the movie.
Was that true?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, and so the podcast that the psychic guys, they kind of talked. Oh, maybe it's a different podcast to listen to. Someone who I was listening to unpacking all these coincidences, but it was just proving that intergenerational wealth continues to be fortunate, and people that had rich families are still rich.
I saw so little coverage of this that it annoyed me. One of the billionaire who was on there, he was on the board of SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's like, there's your conspiracy. What did he know?
Yeah, what's he found? That's the right gear.
But
we need, how we talked about like government agencies need to start engaging us to advise them on what to call things and not to call things. Don't call it the Freemason, or don't call it the Q, whatever Institute.
Yeah.
Cookers now need to start engaging us for new angles on their conspiracies.
Yeah.
Because they're missing some really good ones.
I think maybe the lowest effort thing I saw was, here's a quote, "My take, the WEF wants an international regulation on deep-sea diving to change maritime laws. Another step towards one world government."
Yeah, right.
It really reminded me of when we got locked down here in Victoria. And it's like the World Economic Forum, they're locking down Victoria. This is the first step towards the one world government. They're going to start it in Victoria. It's like, all right, they're going to start regulating deep sea diving, and then it's a slippery slope from there.
Yeah, you never know. This is how it starts.
Well, once you accept regulations on deep sea diving, which also I think there already are, because wasn't the point of these guys that they were like, not bother? we don't care about regulation?
I think that like the kind of community around these kinds of submarines, and I saw a few different people saying this, it's a very small community. So if you go to a convention for like, private submersible craft, you'll meet James Cameron because he's at all them.
Yeah.
Just being a guy that's into it. So the regulations that they keep as a community, I think it's almost self-regulating because once you're out in the ocean, all bets are off.
Yeah, well, even if you're not in international waters, when you're at that depth, there's no law.
Yeah, absolutely. You can do whatever you want.
No law, but apparently the laws of physics.
Yeah, the laws of physics they're pretty crucial. They're the only laws that you need to really worry about.
Meanwhile, those billionaires faked their death to disappear into their underground bunkers in anticipation of a global nuclear war. And I guess that was the other sort of thing that I saw popping up around this is, obviously they faked their death.
Yeah. If I was a billionaire that no one had ever heard of, I wouldn't fake my death that publicly.
Yeah, it did seem to me like there could be subtler ways to fake your death. And there was I never saw anyone sort of explain why they thought it had to be done like this.
Unless the kind of usual gear on that is it's a ritual, a sacrificial ritual, or they needed to do it as it's a wink to us.
I think. I mean, some of the people I saw talking about them faking their death were, I guess, more on the normal side of conservatism, as normal as it can be.
And
it's one of those things where it's like, there's so much crossover into the not normal.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like if you're a billionaire and you want to fake your death, you just have to get on a boat and let the boat drift around and get on another boat and go. And they find your boat and there's no one on it. They're like, well, they fell off.
I mean, remember Olivia Newton-John's boyfriend, who very obviously faked his death, and there's just no consequences.
Yeah,
because he just disappeared and like stayed in Mexico. What are you going to do about it?
He didn't even cut his toe off.
No, at least cut your toe off. I've got a little bit more gear on this.
Mm-hmm. Lay it on me.
Remember the guy? I can't remember what he was talking about, but it was during the boycott episode, and he was like, "Oh, was it Lego? Yeah, it was Lego." And he's like, is Lego isn't a publicly traded company, but if they did, I'd short their stock. And then he spent 10 minutes explaining what shorting stock meant.
Mm-hmm.
So I've watched a bit more of his content, and he's so lame. He's called Press for Truth, and he's on band.video, which is where Alex Jones hosts all his vids. So he's in the Alex Jones sphere. He was making a lot of really bad points about this. Really just a stupid man. And one of his main points is why did one billionaire pull out after he'd already paid his deposit? Why would anyone do that? His official reason was safety issues. But why would he do it? And it's like, oh my God, it's safety issues.
Yeah, he didn't want to die at the bottom of the ocean.
But in this guy's mind, that's part of a wider conspiracy. I'm not even sure what he was trying to get at. This guy is so bewildering to me. I'm going to watch a lot of his content. The only other thing I saw was Alex Jones saying that he wasn't sure what to say. He was trying to twist James Cameron's words on it, because James Cameron said something like, there might be more to this or something. And then Alex Jones says, I'm just quoting James Cameron when people say, Jones says it was all fake. And it didn't make sense what he was trying to say, but he was saying he's being mobbed in restaurants and on the beach. He was stopped 5 times when walking on the beach. And what's happening with the submarine? 5 times on the beach. If I'm got some advice for Alex Jones, it's use your money to find a quieter beach. If you've got 5 different people coming up to you about a singular issue on the beach, it's too many people.
Yeah. You can find a more elite beach, Alex Jones.
Absolutely. The thing is, earlier in the morning.
He's a man of the people.
Yeah. Have you ever seen video of the people getting too close to Alex Jones and trying to chat to him? You see his absolute disdain for the people.
Yeah. But the problem is, if you go to a 2-liter beach, you end up on the bloody beach that turns you old.
Oh, you don't want to go to Old Beach.
You don't want that.
I really enjoyed the Old Beach movie.
Yeah, I didn't mind the Old Beach movie.
Some of it was bleedingly obvious, but yeah. I don't know if that's the point of a Shyamalan movie, because the ones that I've seen that are like that and everyone says, it's so bad, I've really enjoyed.
Yeah. It's a shame Salty's not here to share his cooked M. Night Shyamalan opinions. No, the Old Beach movie was good. I'll say this. This is like getting very shoey areas. If you're going to do a movie about a beach that makes you old, he did it.
He did it. He did it.
He smashed it. They got on the beach and they got old. And there was that one bit where that's what would happen if you were on a beach that made you old.
Yeah, some of the things didn't really make a lot of sense.
No,
yeah.
Okay, in terms of what happened on the beach that makes you old, if you were on a beach that made you old, that's what would happen. Some of the stuff that happened at the resort next to the beach that made you old, I was like, M. Night Shyamalan, you're pushing my credulity.
Okay.
But if I was on a beach that made me old and all of that stuff that happened on the beach happened, I'd be like, that's life in the big city, mate. That's how it would go.
Life in an old beach.
Yeah. All right. Time for the news.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of news, so let's just whip through it.
All right. Item number 1. Jason Jesse skateboard Nazi vid suddenly bumped to the top of algorithms.
Yeah,
what is the Jason Jesse skateboard Nazi vid? Is this the skateboard video that has the Wugazi track on it?
No, unrelated to the Wugazi skateboard video. This isn't that interesting given how much news I've added since then, which is way more interesting. But I guess remember I talked about the Harmony Korine video that was always at the top of my fucking YouTube?
Yeah, you always got Harmony Korine on Letterman or whatever, right?
There's some chatter in the skateboard community this week, just in the last week, where there's a video from like 3 or 4 years ago about famous celebrity skateboarder Jason Jesse, who was a straight up Nazi, like, you know, iron crosses, swastikas, in a literal Nazi band with literal Nazi lyrics.
Yeah.
And a sort of video that someone did kind of unpacking all of that. It's a really interesting video, really fun. You know, it's presented with a bit of comedy, but also like this guy's an absolute Nazi, and anyone in the skateboard community that supports him, like, get fucked. And that was a few years ago, and then this week suddenly it ended up on anyone that was engaging with skateboard content was at the top of their algorithm on YouTube. And everyone, like, I was reading a couple of forums, and everyone's like, why is this video back? And everyone's like, yeah, I saw it too. Just a random quirk of the algorithm, just spat it to the top again.
Next item, this is from the Singular Fortean Society, or the Singular Fortean Society. Tourist photographs long shadow moving underwater in Loch Ness. Is this is a photograph creepy cam territory?
Oh, no, I had a different theme song. Oh, I forgot I was going to do the theme song for this.
All right, hit me with the theme song.
No, I had to get the rhythms right. Did I write it down? I didn't. It was rhythmically confusing.
This is a fart.
All right, next time we have a Loch Ness story, I'll have a theme song ready to go. Anyway, so this is an official Loch Ness sighting per the Loch Ness Monster Register.
Mm-hmm.
The official Loch Ness Monster Sightings Register in 2023. Cam, you looking at the photo?
I am.
Yeah, cool. So there's a quote from the person that took the photo.
Who I think we should note is Etienne Camel.
Yes, Etienne Camel.
Etienne and Elian Camel. Yep.
He says, it was quite strange. I'm a man of science, so I never believed that the Loch Ness Monster is a prehistoric animal. But when I was taking a picture, I saw this long, long shadow. I called my wife over, and we saw the shadow move. I thought maybe it was a cloud, but there were none. I'm not going to read the rest of the quote, Cam, because I want you to scroll up and make sure you're looking at the photo again.
Yeah, I'm looking right at it.
I think you'll note if you look at the hills in the background and the sky in the background.
Yep.
There's lots of clouds.
There are lots of clouds.
And lots of very similar shadows on the hills.
Yep.
And I'll just read his quote again. I thought maybe it was a cloud, but there was none.
Yeah.
I
think Etienne Campbell may have confused himself a little bit there. It's a very cloudy day.
Yeah. I'm going to call this one debunked.
Yeah.
Cam, get the debunked thing over the top of it.
Debunked.
Myth busted.
All right.
That can be our thing.
You've got a video here. Happy birthday, Elon Musk.
Oh, Elon Musk has been there's a hard seltzer brand called Happy Dad. Has some real like creepy Instagram videos, like sexual stuff. And it's a hard seltzer brand in America where Elon Musk has been on a podcast with the guys that started it, and he's now promoting it. I think Donald Trump was promoting it. Weirdly, Snoop Dogg and Death Row Records were promoting it as well. So I don't know what Snoop's official opinion on it now that it's become the alt-right brand of hard seltzer, but just another dumb thing that exists, really.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, good work getting Elon Musk on board. Famously the world's worst dad.
Somehow I don't think that matters to these
hard
this
seltzer
world.
people.
No.
That's the hard seltzer industry for you.
It is the hard seltzer ad complaints. I read a lot of alcohol ad complaints, and the hard seltzer ones over summertime were fucking entertaining, like all the Instagram stuff. Really entertaining. Anyway.
And just finally, there's riots in France, and there's a lot of misinformation about them. But like some of this is like people posting pictures from like Fast and the Furious movies.
Yeah. So there's been some footage around of people throwing cars out of buildings, which is from Fast and Furious 8.
Yeah.
Which rewatched a lot of the Fast and Furious in the last week. 4, 5, 6, just an absolute banger of a run of movies.
If I were to just watch those, do I not need to have seen 1, 2, 3?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, you're 100% best starting at the start. 1, 2, 3, great. And they do set up the whole universe. And you will get hooked if you start. You'll be Googling and wikiing timelines. you would be trying to unpack why Tokyo Drift happens third in the series, but it's actually the 7th movie in the timeline, and all the things that are set up in between.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Well, let's wrap this up. Oh, Robbo, there was one thing about the Titanic that I wanted to mention.
Oh, no.
If you go on Twitter, and if the search function is working again, look up the account Yesterday's Print and do a search on that account for April 1912. And there's just an amazing run of newspaper headlines from when the original Titanic sank that is well worth checking out, and does sort of put the lie to the idea that today's youth are like uniquely callous when it comes to rich people dying around the region of the Titanic, because they were letting them have it. The old newspaper headlines, a lot of like poets catching strays as well.
Poets.
There's a lot of headlines bemoaning like all of the material that poets had been given by the sinking of this boat. It's like, what did the poets ever do?
We thought we left poetry behind once we got into the 20th century, and you're just going to come back for all this. And that was even pre-World War I, when, let's face it, poets came out of the woodwork for that too.
Yeah. Well, Robbo, that's our show. If people want to find us, where can they find you, Matty?
10 Lyndhurst Street, Short Jaw Brewing.
Just dox yourself, idiot.
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky. Don't follow me on Blue Sky.
Yeah, who got you on the Blue Sky, by the way?
Oh, thank you for getting me a Blue Sky invite.
Yeah, no worries.
How long does it take till you get invite codes?
Like 2 weeks.
Okay, cool.
All right,
Blue Sky's pretty good. Where do they find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky, same name as everywhere, Sextonheimer. You can find us on Twitter at Hypothepod, and you can find us on Patreon. Thank you to Tammy, our cooked $33 sponsor.
Thank you.
All right, folks. See you later.
Bye.
Don't worry about a thing, except if all our world leaders are alien reptilians. I said don't worry about a thing, except maybe the fluoride in our water supply contains mind-altering drugs. Don't worry about a thing, except whether or not Port Arthur was a false flag operation in which to disarm Australia. I said don't worry about a thing. I accept you can definitely hear John Lennon say I buried Paul at the end of Strawberry Fields Forever. Ooh, don't worry about a thing, except not only did Bush do 9/11, but he also keeps the planes out in Area 51, which, let's not forget where all of the aliens are. Don't worry about a thing, except Donald Trump is clearly a woman, and you're just blind if you can't